On the morning of April 15th, 2007, Kaz II set sail out of the Able Point Marina at Airlie Beach and towards Western Australia. An 8-week trip three friends have been extensively planning for. On the first leg of their journey, they intended to make a stop at Townsville. They never did. 5 days later, Kaz II was spotted by a helicopter, then boarded by maritime authorities. However, they found nothing unusual. Besides one of the sails that had been badly shredded, the boat was in serviceable condition. Food and flatware were neatly arranged on the table, a laptop was set up and powered on, and the engine continued to run on neutral. Officials confirmed that the emergency systems, including radio and GPS, were fully operational, and all the life jackets were accounted for. A small boat remained hoisted on the stern, and the anchor was up. The only problem is that the crew is missing. The boat returned. The three men never did. What happened?
Butterfly.
This is a photograph of the three men, Des Batten, James Tunstead, and his brother, Peter Tunstead. They are close friends and neighbors. The brothers are inexperienced sailors, whereas Batten has sailing experience and has even taken previous trips on the Kaz II. Their swimming skills were average at best, but as long as nothing went wrong, they would be fine. Their trip had been vastly planned for. They plotted charts and courses and entered them into their laptops that they brought with them. On April 15th, 2007, they departed, a leisurely sail along the northeastern coast of Australia, taking in the views of the Great Barrier Reef. At 10:05 a.m., James Tunstead picks up a video camera and starts recording. I was only able to find pieces of the footage, but just keep in mind that Batten is at the helm guiding the boat. Peter Tunstead sits on the aft stairway, fishing. A long white rope trails behind the boat. The engine is off. Then there's dangle from the safety rails on both sides. The camera pans 360 degrees, capturing the surrounding islands and landscape, which helped investigators in pinpointing the boat's exact location. The sea is choppy, and none of the men are wearing life jackets. Tunstead's shirts and glasses are not where they were later discovered. 3 days later, on the 18th, a Coast Watch helicopter spotted Kaz II. They potentially thought that the crew could be in distress. However, the information available to authorities at that time did not suggest the need to initiate a search and rescue mission. They did not take action. On the 20th, Kaz II was once again spotted by a helicopter. This time, maritime authorities boarded the ship and brought it back to port. After a forensic examination, it was discovered that the boat was in serviceable condition, appearing as though the crew had just been there. Food and flatware were neatly arranged on the table, a laptop was set up and powered on, and the engine continued to run on neutral. Officials confirmed that the emergency systems, including the radio and GPS, were fully operational, and all the life jackets were accounted for. A small boat remained hoisted on the stern, and the anchor was up. However, one of the sails had been severely shredded. Furthermore, the crew disappeared without a trace, as if they'd been simply removed from the boat. This raises many questions. Did they go overboard? How did the sail get shredded? Why did they disregard the life jackets? Was there foul play involved? The coroner's report acknowledges that they cannot be so definitive about the circumstances under which the deaths occurred. However, based on eyewitness accounts, the video found on board, and the condition in which the yacht was discovered, the report suggests the following scenario. On April 15th, 2007, at 10:05 a.m., the Kaz II was sailing near George Point. Everything was proceeding as planned until the situation drastically changed. Within the next hour, the men retrieved the white rope trailing behind the boat, bundling it on the foredeck, possibly to dry it near the locker where it was usually stored. For unknown reasons, James Tunstead then removed his t-shirt and glasses, placing them on the back seat. The report suggests that, given the fishing lure found tangled in the port side rudder, it is likely that one of the men attempted to free the lure and then fell overboard in the process. Standing on the boat's sugar scoop platform, a platform at the back of the ship close to the waterline, while the boat is moving, is hazardous. Falling into the water is easy, but getting back aboard is nearly impossible. One of the other men may have rushed to rescue his brother, while Batten, still on board, started the engine and realized he needed to drop the sails before attempting to retrieve his friend. As Batten left the helm to lower the sails, a change in the ship's course or wind direction could have caused an accidental jibe, swinging the boom across the deck and potentially knocking Batten overboard. This may have occurred before Batten could untie and throw the life ring to his companions. A blue coffee mug found near the life ring might support this theory. Given that the boat was moving downwind at a speed of 15 knots, it would have quickly sailed out of reach. The report concludes From that point, the end would have been swift. None of them were strong swimmers, the seas were choppy, the men would have quickly become exhausted and sunk beneath the waves. It's a logical sequence of unfortunate events that unfolded. Unlikely, but not impossible. The report also rules out both foul play and the possibility of a staged disappearance. In the scenario he laid out, the coroner said one of the brothers attempted to free a fishing line that had become wrapped around the yacht's propeller when he fell overboard. The other brother fell in while trying to rescue him. Mr. Benton tried to drop the sails so he could turn around and go back for his two friends. But a change in the wind's direction caused the yacht's boom to swing and knock him overboard. Once the three men were in the water, there was very little chance they could get back on the boat, he said. It would be beyond their reach in seconds. From that point, the end would have been swift. None of them was a good swimmer, the seas were choppy, they would have quickly become exhausted and sunk beneath the waves. Although I can't exclude the possibility of a shark attacking them, drowning is a far more likely cause of death. I would tend to buy the coroner's hypothesis. I lost two second uncles on lake. In a similar fashion, one fell overboard and the other tried to rescue, but failed. My grandparents sold the boat, which was recovered. It still remains a question though, why no life jackets if it was rough enough to fall overboard? The skipper was hardly a noob and was unlikely to have been struck by the sail. Why were no life preservers deployed? Surely that's the first thing either of the two men on board would have done. There's a whole bunch of problems with that official conclusion. To me, first thing to do in a man overboard situation is toss the life ring. It wasn't used. There's no need to drop your sails to return for a man overboard. It's a freaking sailboat. Why on earth would someone leave the control and safety of the cockpit to waste precious seconds to drop a sail unnecessarily? Sure, start the engine for more control. The engine was found running, but in neutral. Sheet out to luff your sails if you want to do it all under power. Loop around and approach the men from downwind. That's pretty basic stuff. Leaving the cockpit makes zero sense. I still think it's strange that these experienced sailors wouldn't have thrown a life preserver to anyone that fell out. They had them on board and none were missing. Someone jumping in the water to help someone that's fallen in is, I believe, a bit of a stretch here. When you add that to somehow the last guy fell in, not sure how, but somehow, then I still think this qualifies as a mystery, not a paranormal or supernatural mystery, and potentially just a really unfortunate mistake. Hey, let's take a photo, the three of us standing together here with that cool looking rogue wave in the background, but still an unresolved mystery. If a person is unconscious for some reason, a life preserver is of no use, then it would be logical to jump in after him, and fast. I think that's a valid point, so perhaps, somehow, one of them was knocked out, went overboard, and then another jumped in, ostensibly on instinct, and then the third somehow falls in? That's not meant to sound facetious. I can genuinely see, now that you've pointed it out, how two of them would end up in the water, but the third? I just don't get how. One alternative I haven't seen discussed is that they may have intentionally beached the cat on George's Point sandbar, maybe for a swim or a barbecue. Not knowing the area, I can't say if this is a reasonable thing to attempt or not. I do know some cats, even big ones, can be comfortably beached, then backed off for departure. Would this be a reasonable maneuver for the Kaz II? They may have breached it to untangle the fishing gear that was found tangled in the rudder. This tangling could have been post-abandonment though, if there were knives strewn about below. This might be consistent with a hasty search for something to use to cut the rudder free. It might even look like a scuffle took place. The tidily placed clothes/glasses implies something a bit more planned rather than a oh shit situation, like an unintentional grounding. Other theories suggest a Kraken attack or that they were abducted by aliens. Another theory suggests that a rogue wave might have swept one crew member overboard and the others were lost in their attempts to rescue him. I think it wasn't a Kraken. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Show me what you got. Well, first of all, it was completely uncharacteristic of a Kraken attack. No Kraken pellets strewn on board. What? A giant calamari? To some, the coroner's report may have been enough, but to others, it only raised more questions. Peter Tunstead, a non-swimmer. People who can't swim go sailing like this? Seems like a poor life choice in general. I've known sailors who aren't strong swimmers, but fishing off a boat without a life vest on is definitely tempting fate if you can't swim. In 2008, the Kaz II, often referred to as the Mary Celeste of the Whitsundays, and at the center of one of Australia's most enduring maritime mysteries, has been listed for sale by a Townsville broker at $225,000. Well, what do you think happened? Let me know in the comments below.